For every legendary WWE faction that changed wrestling forever, there's one disaster that became a complete joke. Kicking off our list with the faction that revolutionized an entire generation, D-Generation X. Originally formed in 1997 with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chyna, and Rick Rude, the group embodied everything right with the Attitude Era. When Shawn Michaels left due to injury in 1998, Triple H took control and recruited X-Pac, the New Age Outlaws, and later added members like Tori and the Radicals. What made DX beloved wasn't just their humor and catchphrases, it was their complete defiance of authority. The iconic moment where DX invaded WCW Nitro with a tank, or when Shawn and Triple H painted the DX logo on WWE headquarters in 2006, showed that no one was safe from their chaos. DX understood something fundamental about wrestling. Sometimes the best way to get over is to simply have fun and let that energy spread to the audience. DX didn't just break the rules, they completely rewrote them. But while DX showed how comedy can elevate a faction, 3MB proved that comedy without credibility simply turns you into a joke. In 2012, Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal, and Heath Slater were packaged together as a rock band parody group called Three Man Band, or 3MB for short. Drew McIntyre had previously been IC champion and Vince's chosen one. Jinder Mahal had shown some potential as a mid-card heel. Heath Slater was a solid mid-card talent. Putting them together should have created something memorable. Instead, they became WWE's resident jobbers. The group existed solely to get squashed, racking up an embarrassing win-loss record that destroyed any credibility the members had built individually. The worst part? WWE never gave them a chance to be anything more. By the time the group disbanded in 2014, all three members had been buried so badly that it seemed impossible any of them could recover. It's ironic that both Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal eventually became world champions years later, but only after completely abandoning everything about their rock star personas and rebuilding from scratch. However, when factions are presented as genuine threats instead of comedy acts, they can become unstoppable. The Wyatt family proved that darkness, mystery, and a pinch of horror could captivate audiences just as much as comedy and humor. Bray Wyatt debuted on the main roster in 2013, accompanied by Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and later Braun Strowman. Presented as a backwoods cult leader with his followers, the Wyatt family immediately felt different from anything WWE had done in years. Bray's cryptic promos about following the buzzards were creepy, but the true brilliance of the Wyatt family lay in their presentation and commitment to character. Their feuds with The Shield, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, and the Brothers of Destruction elevated the faction to the next level. And even when the group eventually disbanded, each member had been established as a serious competitor. But while the Wyatt family showed how the concept of mysterious invaders could work perfectly, Retribution proved that mystery without payoff creates nothing but disappointment. In August 2020, a group of masked individuals began attacking WWE's Performance Center during the pandemic era, destroying equipment and invading shows in scenes reminiscent of the Nexus debut a decade earlier. The concept had potential, but everything fell apart immediately. WWE had the group change their masks so viewers could see their faces, revealing they were NXT wrestlers. The commentary team pretending not to know who they were made it even more insulting. Then came the names: T-Bar, Slapjack, Mace, Reckoning. These weren't intimidating wrestling names, they sounded like rejected Power Rangers villains. When Mustafa Ali was revealed as their leader, there was hope his legitimate frustrations about being overlooked could salvage the group. But how could anyone take seriously a faction with members named Slapjack? They looked like comic book villains, talked like revolutionaries, but performed like complete jobbers. By the time the group quietly disbanded in 2021, fans were relieved as well as disappointed. Retribution represents everything wrong with promising an invasion angle, then immediately undermining the invaders with terrible presentation and even worse booking. But speaking of invasion angles done right, The Shield's debut in 2012 showed exactly how unstoppable newcomers should be presented. At Survivor Series, 3 NXT wrestlers, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, emerged from the crowd and destroyed Ryback, costing him the WWE Championship. These new guys weren't asking for opportunities, they were taking them through absolute dominance. What made The Shield beloved was their perfect balance of individual talent and group chemistry. Roman Reigns was the powerhouse, Seth Rollins brought high-flying innovation, and Dean Ambrose added unpredictable intensity. Together, they were virtually unstoppable. Dressed in tactical gear and entering through the crowd, they felt like legit badasses who could dismantle anyone. Their trademark powerbomb through announce tables became iconic, and the three men carried the WWE for almost a decade. Their six-man tag matches against groups like Evolution and the Wyatt Family consistently stole the show. The group racked up multiple tag team championships while all three members simultaneously held singles gold at various points. More importantly, WWE protected them brilliantly during their run. The Shield rarely lost clean, maintaining their credibility as the most dangerous faction in the company. When Seth Rollins turned on his brothers in 2014, it felt genuinely shocking and emotional. All three members went on to become multiple-time world champions, proving the Shield wasn't just style over substance, they were the complete package. But while the Shield showed how a faction can create individual stars, the core was a masterclass in how to destroy the careers of everyone involved. In late 2010, Wade Barrett was kicked out of the Nexus after CM Punk took control. Barrett then formed his own group with Ezekiel Jackson, Heath Slater, and Justin Gabriel, calling themselves The Core. The Core had everything they needed to succeed on paper. Wade Barrett was excellent on the mic and a cunning leader. Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel were former tag team champions. Ezekiel Jackson looked like an unstoppable monster. The natural story was right there. Barrett's group feuding with CM Punk's Nexus in a battle for supremacy. Instead, WWE completely abandoned that direction. Without a clear rival, the Core floundered on SmackDown's midcard. They'd attack people after matches, cut generic promos, and basically exist without purpose. WWE tried giving them credibility by having Barrett win the Intercontinental Championship, while Slater and Gabriel captured the tag titles. But shortly after, the Core fell apart rapidly. Ezekiel Jackson was kicked out, then Slater and Gabriel walked away, leaving Barrett alone by the summer of 2011. The group lasted barely 6 months and accomplished absolutely nothing beyond proving that matching t-shirts don't make a faction matter. However, when factions are built around family, legacy, and a clear hierarchy, they can dominate wrestling for years. The Bloodline became the defining storyline of modern WWE, proving that long-term storytelling still works when executed perfectly. The foundation began when Roman Reigns aligned with his cousins Jey and Jimmy Uso in 2020, adopting the tribal chief persona and demanding acknowledgement as the head of the table. What started as Roman enforcing his will over reluctant family members evolved into WWE's most compelling faction. The addition of Paul Heyman as the Wiseman added another layer, while Solo Sikoa's arrival as the Enforcer and Sami Zayn's addition created an interesting dynamic. Every member had a defined role. Their matches and moments dominated an era. Roman's historic championship reign, the Usos becoming the longest reigning tag champions ever, War Games battles, and the slow-building tension that led to Sami's exit all felt massive. When Cody Rhodes finally ended Roman's reign and the faction splintered, it felt like the conclusion of an epic saga rather than just another storyline ending. But while the Bloodline proved that factions can be built around one dominant star successfully, League of Nations showed what happens when too many cooks spoil the broth. Formed in November 2015, the League of Nations brought together Sheamus, King Barrett, Rusev, and Alberto Del Rio. Together, they should have been a legitimate threat. But instead, the League of Nations existed for one reason, making Roman Reigns look strong. The group would win meaningless matches, then lose whenever it actually mattered. Their biggest moment came at WrestleMania 32 when they defeated the New Day for the tag titles, only to immediately get jumped by Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Mick Foley. The night after WrestleMania, Barrett was kicked out for being the weak link, and the group disbanded weeks later. Not only did League of Nations fail to help Roman Reigns get over, it actively hurt everyone involved. But moving on from the League's failure, let's talk about a faction that elevated its leader while giving us 2 future main event stars. Formed in 2003, Evolution brought together 3 generations of wrestling excellence, Ric Flair representing the past, Triple H as the present, and Randy Orton and Batista as the future. The group wore expensive suits, arrived in limousines, and carried themselves like wrestling royalty. What made Evolution credible was how they actually delivered on their promise. Triple H's reign of terror as world champion was legitimized by having Flair in his corner. Randy Orton became the youngest world heavyweight champion in history. Batista transformed from raw muscle into a main event powerhouse. Their feuds with Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit, and various top stars consistently produced quality matches and memorable moments. Orton's eventual exit and Batista's crowning moment at WrestleMania 21 against Triple H proved that Evolution didn't just create stars, it gave them the platform to prove they'd surpassed their teachers. But while Evolution showed how factions can create future stars while elevating their leader, the Cosmic Wasteland proved that sometimes throwing random wrestlers together with a bizarre gimmick creates nothing but a laughingstock. In 2015, Cody Rhodes as Stardust recruited the Ascension to form one of WWE's most forgettable and poorly conceived factions. The concept made no sense from the start. Stardust was already struggling to connect with audiences. The Ascension had been dominant tag team champions in NXT, but were immediately buried on the main roster. Pairing a floundering singles wrestler with a buried tag team wasn't going to save anyone. It was three drowning people grabbing onto each other. Their matches were consistently on the pre-show, and they were treated as filler rather than anything meaningful. What made Cosmic Wasteland particularly bad was the wasted potential. Cody Rhodes was a talented performer trapped in a character that wasn't working. The Ascension could have been rebuilt with the right booking. Instead, WWE stuck them in a directionless faction that accomplished nothing, helped no one, and disappeared without anyone noticing. By 2016, the group quietly disbanded, with all members released or moved to different roles shortly after. However, when factions are given freedom to develop their characters organically, magic can happen. The New Day started as everything wrong with WWE creative. Three talented wrestlers forced into a preachy, positive gimmick that fans immediately rejected. By 2015, Kofi Kingston, Big E, and Xavier Woods transformed that disaster into one of the most entertaining and successful factions of the modern era. The New Day's evolution from hated babyfaces to beloved champions happened because WWE finally let them be themselves. They embraced the boos, turned heel, and injected personality into everything they did. Xavier Woods brought his trombone, they developed elaborate entrances with cereal boxes and unicorn horns, and their promos became must-see segments. What made the New Day beloved wasn't just the humor, it was their incredible in-ring work. Their matches against the Usos, The Bar, and various teams consistently delivered quality action. They held the tag titles for over 400 days, and they proved comedy acts could be taken seriously when the booking was solid. But the New Day's impact extended beyond championships. Their merchandise became top sellers, their catchphrases echoed through arenas, and even when the members pursued singles success, the group remained intact, until they eventually broke up a few months ago. But while the New Day showed how comedy factions can succeed through authenticity and talent, Spirit Squad demonstrated what happens when WWE creates a joke faction and never evolves them past the punchline. In 2006, 5 male cheerleaders, Kenny, Johnny, Mitch, Nikki, and Mikey, debuted as the Spirit Squad, and it was exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. The gimmick was simple. Male cheerleaders who did backflips, chanted cheers, and acted obnoxiously enthusiastic about everything. They aligned themselves with Mr. McMahon during his feud with Shawn Michaels, giving them immediate spotlight and protection. WWE even put the World Tag Team Championships on Kenny and Mikey, showing they were committed to pushing the group despite the fans not caring. The problem was that Spirit Squad was designed to be annoying, and they succeeded too well. Unlike DX's rebellious humor or New Day's infectious energy, Spirit Squad's cheerleading gimmick grew old immediately. Fans didn't love to hate them, they simply didn't care. The faction's most memorable moment perfectly summarized their entire run. On an episode of Raw, DX defeated the Spirit Squad, then literally stuffed all 5 members into a crate and shipped them back to OVW. Speaking of Shawn Michaels, check out this video next to relive the epic saga between HBK and Taker during WrestleMania 25 and 26.